I would love to know how you got into screenwriting.
I have been writing for kids in animation for over 25 years.
Wow, how did you get into the industry?
I am a product of the generosity and wisdom.
How much creative control do you have as a writer?
I mean, you're setting the first roadmap, so you have a lot of control, and then your control is over.
For people who are not in US and Canada and UK, their main frustration point is how to make money.
Right now, I'm not going to lie, it is a challenge to make money. Your script is like your roadmap, and you don't want your production to get lost, but it really helps if you know what's coming later, because the least expensive place to make a mistake and fix problems is
Robert Wincombe is one of the top animation screenwriters, famous for series like Kid vs. Cat, Luna, Chip and Inky Adventure Rangers Go, and many more. In this episode, we get into what makes animation writing different from live action writing, what needs to be in your portfolio that studios are looking for, and how to stay relevant in this ever-changing industry. If you want to be an expert in writing stories that draw people in and someone the studios are looking for, you might want to listen to this. Hi everyone, welcome to Scribble Sena, and today we have the amazingly talented screenwriter Robert Wincombe.
hello. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, and we would love to know everything about screenwriting. And first, we would,
Everything.
As
We're going
much
to
as you
know
can share.
everything about screenwriting.
As much as you can share. So I would love to know how you got into screenwriting, and someone who is watching you for the first time, should they know about you?
Oh, well, I have been writing for kids in animation for over 25 years.
Wow.
And for clients around the world, and kind of working on a lot of different shows and stuff, and a lot of different kinds of experiences. So I am coming from a fairly wide variety of writing and stuff. In fact, early on, when I was more starting out to be a writer, I had a meeting at the start of a week where I sat down, and my writing partner at the time and I were introduced as, oh, these are preschool experts. They are the best at preschool writing. Then we did another meeting 3 days later where we introduced as like, these are boys action, 8 to 10 experts. And it's like, we're doing something right. We're clearly not just one thing, I've been doing it a long time. And hopefully some of what I've learned has stuck and can help your audience learn some things.
Yeah, so I would love to know more about how did you get into the industry? Like, was it like you knew that you wanted to be screenwriter, or was it like a transition or something?
Almost everything I've ever done has been accidental. I have a lot of colleagues and friends who went to school and kind of went into it. I went to film school and worked on film sets here and there as PAs and drivers and things like that. But really getting into television writing and kids was kind of accidental for me. So I came in kind of a different door. Everyone comes into the industry in different ways. There's no kind of one specific way in. Generally, a lot of people go to school, they get jobs at companies, and they kind of grow from there. That's the most common way forward. For me, I was a actor and performer who rarely got work, but I was a comedian, so I did a lot of improv.
Wow.
I did, I performed like comedy shows and events and stuff like that. And kind of a lot of my initial writing came through my performing in terms of talking with people. I did this Second City touring company for a little while. I was in that. But I learned to write sketch comedy and perform it live. And I ended up having a comedy troupe with a couple of friends, and we taught ourselves to write. So we would do a new 2-hour show every month. So, and every third one, every two would be mostly new material. So we were writing a lot and really kind of learning on the fly and teaching ourselves, and we'd write together. And we had instant reactions to tell us if that was working, if it wasn't. So, because the audience,
That's probably the quickest way to do it, right?
So we grew that way. And then kind of every third month we'd take other writing, kind of do a show that was not new, just to buy us some time to sleep. Jumping ahead in terms of my kids' writing, kids in animation, I got a job at Nelvana. I got a job as like a storyboard cleanup person. And I hadn't been to animation school, but I had worked at an animation studio because I could draw a little, and I was hired as their camera person, and then they didn't need me that much, so they started to teach me to in between and do stuff like that so that my paycheck wasn't a complete waste while I waited around to work the camera. I did a test, a storyboard test. And the person whose name is John Van Bruggen, he's a director and animator and he met with me and said, what I see here is you don't know the full animation process well enough. Like you don't know everything that's going in. So you're missing some things that a storyboard does to direct all the rest of the process. But he said, but I also see that you're thinking through the story and the characters, and the choices you're making are towards that. I see your thinking working to try and tell the story as well as you can. He said, I can teach you the process, but I can't teach you that. So I'm going to recommend you get a job. And I started just at the bottom rung and learned on the job because he saw something in what I did, and I learned as I went along.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like when you have someone to mentor you, it's so much easier to learn, especially if you don't have like a traditional, film school background.
I was very lucky with people being generous with their knowledge and their time. And I can't say enough how grateful I was. And Nelvana, it's like they needed to get the work done. So if I was working for them, they certainly wanted to make sure I was, getting focused in and learning what I needed to learn, so they didn't have to worry. If someone does offer insight or just, suggestions here and there, sometimes it can feel like I know what I'm doing, but always listen and take what you need out of it to move forward. You don't have to take it all. You'll know what you need. But I am a product of the generosity and wisdom of the people who I worked with.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to artists being very protective of their work,
Right.
I think that's the trickiest part for them to, that's the thing that will stop them from growing. And initially it feels very jarring to hear feedback, but that is very important for you. So
it's very common to feel early on, you've learned a lot, you're proud of what you do. It's hard not to be defensive. And the longer you do this, the more you will be able to recognize some feedback isn't helpful.
Oh, okay.
And some is, and you'll be able to parse what what is helpful and what isn't. But always listen and kind of take it in and don't react right away. Because sometimes you're like, because you want it to be the best and you want people to react well. And when they don't, it's hard not to close up. That won't happen. It happens to me now. So it's just the idea of giving yourself that time before you respond to just take it in and consider it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, makes sense. And also for someone who is self-taught and knows that they want to get into screenwriting, how should they approach getting into the industry?
So that we're talking about screenwriting now, not kind of the animation or art stuff so much.
Yeah. Right. Mostly screenwriting, because there are a lot of artists who want to get into it, but they don't really want to, explore a lot on being an artist, but they want to write, engaging stories for children.
Well, I was a writer and an artist, so I was naturally inclined to look at the process, where you can see kind of how it all connects. And I learned that over time. I got better at it. Is your script is like your roadmap, and you don't want your production to get lost, but it really helps if you know what's coming later, because the least expensive place to make a mistake and fix problems is on the page. Once you get into the next section, it gets more complicated and more expensive to fix problems. So the more you can kind of address and really plan out what you're going to do at script stage, the better.
Right. And for artists out there who are just starting out and they don't really know how to approach, like how to study, or what are the important things that they absolutely not miss when they're writing for animation? Is there any tip for them?
Well, this is probably more about craft than, we can get more in depth in that in terms of what to keep in mind. But the main thing is that animation scripts, more so than live action ones, are guides to all the other departments that are following later. They all go to the script and the storyboard. In live action, it tends not to describe the action so much, because they're there, in the room, they're going to kind of figure it out as they go along. It's more of a director's milieu. In animation, it really has to be in the page. You have to break down what are people seeing, as well as what's happening. How is this kind of all going together? How does it build? In live action, you can kind of have some of the action but focus more on dialogue and stuff because you don't need it. But an animation script is really more of a guide than a live action script.
And any resources that you think that newbies should definitely know about, like maybe books or something?
I guess maybe I should write an animation one now that I think about it.
That would be nice.
Yeah, you heard it here first. I have seen some animation writing books, and they're okay. But I think the thing you can learn the most from are finding animation scripts. Like, I often will share some of my old scripts with, I don't have the right to share a recent script while the show's being made, but once the show's aired and out there, I feel pretty safe in saying, here are 3 samples of scripts, how they work. Here's one this length, one that length. See how it goes together. It's the best way to learn and see how it's done, but you'll also have to really think about what you're looking at on the page. The key thing about an animation script is in a live action, you don't want to describe the action too much. You just want to show what's important, like he went into the bedroom or slammed the door, something that they're reacting to. But in animation, you really have to kind of break down what's happening. So, for example, if it's a chase scene, they're running through the backyard. You want to have a sense of what's in the backyard. Oh, he jumps on the swing and spins around around the posts, and then launches themselves over the pool onto the diving board and back. And you want to let people, it's a guide for what is happening. It's not just a script for character. It's about what physically do they have to animate and know what they need to do. So that's the big difference between animation and live action. Is you really have to lay out what's happening for people. And you don't want to do it, you don't want to be heavy-handed. You want to be as just clear and simple as possible, but you need to write the beats of the action. So just coming into the room, well, in animation, it's like, are they being chased? Do they skid to a stop at their desk and then try and look calm, and pretend they were on time, or things like that? It's not the best example, but
no, it is, and it is quite clear also that we need to show each and every action that we think that the animator should draw. Because while drawing, I've been working in animation studio for 5 years, and I know that when we get scenes, I think the character is very energetic, but the other animator would think the character is very, laid back. So we end up animating the same scenes very differently.
Very differently,
So
yes.
yeah, writing is very, very important for animation.
Yeah, and in animation, the more they can know about each character and
Yes.
who they are and how they react, it can help. So, I mean, one example is a live action. It's not animation, but Seinfeld. Each of those 4 main characters are very different physically and how they do. So Kramer, the neighbor, never just walks into a room. He slides through the door. He trips through the door. He slams. He's very energetic. And Jerry Seinfeld is always kind of very straight and stiff and just kind of more commentary on the action. But all their physicality is different, and especially in animation. Every character should kind of have a sense of a different physicality that kind of defines them as well.
For someone who is making a portfolio, what do you think a writer or a screenwriter portfolio should consist?
Oh gosh.
Because I think since they are writing and want to get into the industry, they'll have to send some cold emails to a lot of people. So what should that have?
Have something original that's yours that can really show who you are, and have something. It can never hurt you to have a sample of a show that you're familiar with that shows you can hit the ground running if you're hired. But I will add one recommendation. If you do a sample script of a show, do not pick a show you love and would die for, like your favorite show, because you're going to get too caught up in the nuance of that show. You want to be able to step back and see the script you're doing. So pick a show you like or understand and watch it and see how they build the stories and duplicate that, because it's how the show is constructed that you need to kind of figure out. But try not to pick something that you're so into. It's like, oh, I'm going to explore this one element of the character that they've always hinted at and never done. You just want to do, an episode that feels like that show. So it's better if you're not so lost in it and excited and it's your favorite thing, because you'll be able to see it more clearly.
Now we know that networking is very, very important, and especially if you're a self-taught artist and if you're not in an art school, where you easily can network. How would a self-taught artist want to should network with everybody else in the industry?
It's challenging to just introduce yourself to new people, but just talk around, be curious. Don't just be trying to tell people what you do. You want them to know, but what you really want to do is learn about the other people around you, so you can start to know who's where and stuff like that. And that kind of curiosity, people appreciate that. People, it's charming, but they also feel like they matter to you. You're not just, if you're just there clearly trying to show yourself and kind of brag, or, I've got a 20-minute portfolio I'd like you to look at before we get out of the elevator. That's a lot of pressure. But if you're just curious and friendly and kind of let them ask questions or just share enough of you to show them that, you're in it to win it, that helps a lot. Most pros you meet are open to talking, especially first off in that moment. You can ask questions and that sort of thing, but you can also follow up and just say, I'm wondering if you could let me buy you a coffee sometime, and understand that most professionals are quite busy. So even if they're open to it, they might not be able to do it right away. They will probably let you know, I can't do it right now. If I'm really buried under it and I'm open to talking to this person, I will say, can you reach out again in 4 weeks? Because right now I'm kind of in deadline hell.
Right.
And most people follow up, and in fact, you did this when we talked about doing this interview. I wasn't able to do it right away, and you were very patient about it. Just, hey, we're still here, and so we finally made it happen. And it was always on my radar to do. So that sort of thing, that respect for time.
Yeah.
Now, I have, and don't be afraid to listen. I have heard and experienced horror stories where you meet someone and they just start talking about themselves
Oh,
and sharing their work.
yeah.
It's like, are you going to ask me a question about this? Like, I'm not sure what this meeting is about because you're not pitching me. I'm not taking your pitch. It really is about learning and respect and that sort of thing. If you're doing a pitch to someone, you will contact them about pitching and they will take it. But generally, just meeting someone to ask questions is not your opportunity to pitch everything in your portfolio.
Right. And for someone who is lives across the ocean or is just not around the active animation industry, how could they, network online?
That's what Zoom was born for.
Yeah.
Not only if you're not paying for it, Zoom is a limited time, so it's a very specific time frame, but you can now talk to just about anyone. So if you find someone online, and I have had some people find me online and just write, I had like a student in the States, an animation student contacted me probably 2 years ago and had some questions and just said, I really liked Kid versus Cat. And he said,
that's everyone's favorite.
Oh, it's it.
We love it.
It's one of mine too. So it's a show I worked on. It was a long time ago, but it's still airing. And he wrote me and just said, would you be open to answering a few questions? So he sent me some questions and I answered them as best I could. And we followed up a bit, but it was very respectful. And if someone is kind of expecting too much time or I don't have the time, I will do my best to let them know that I won't be able to kind of.
I'm really interested in knowing your writing process. So do you pre-plan it or discover it as you go, like in the draft?
I definitely do not discover it as I go in general, writing a script. When you're creating a show or kind of figuring it out, that's the discovery process. But when you're writing, you need to know what your plan is as early as possible. So in general, in writing, I will, take the pitch and I'll do an outline so I can, because I want to know it works. I want to have the action and what happens in the story worked out. I don't need to worry about the dialogue so much unless there's something that occurs to me, I can put it in. But in general, it's about how does this beat work? What's the physical action? What are some things to keep in mind for that? And then that's my guide. And then in theory, if you've done your outline well enough, when you expand it, you can drop the outline into a script and then just start to separate out the action and fill it in more and put in the dialogue, and you will be well on your way to your script being done. Like it's all the hard thinking will have been done already at the stage where you're not writing as many pages.
Okay.
You're working it through. And I think that's really important in terms of discovery is for creating and figuring things out at one point. But when you're doing the script, you want to be as specific as possible, as early as possible. Otherwise, if you're writing a script and you paint yourself into a corner that you haven't thought through, well, you've got an entire script to rewrite or rework, as opposed to an outline where you can kind of look over a few pages and kind of kick the tires and make sure it's working.
So ideally you have an outline and then you flesh it out into an actual script.
Yes.
So that's like a two-stage
Always.
process. Okay.
Always. I can't recommend that highly enough. It's just a better use of your time.
As someone who's starting out in this writing journey, what career paths do you think they could take as someone who's like really starting out?
That's a good question, especially for right now, because it's shifting. A lot of the old avenues are closing up in a way. There aren't as many, television itself and networks are not as big a piece of viewers' lives. People are watching things in different ways and stuff. So getting hired in a company, an animation company or on a show and kind of learning from the ground up and going, that's harder to do right now. So getting into a writer's room is more of a challenge, but definitely, even if it's not going to be a big part of your portfolio, I would definitely try and take a show you are familiar with and see if you can break down, watch a few different shows and break down different shows of different lengths, how their stories work. Like you can actually go in and go, oh, each of these episodes, they set up this way and that sort of thing. And you can start to figure out format yourself if you're if you're watchful.
Yeah, I do agree that as and when you create something, you automatically understand. Like while you're creating,
Mhm.
you understand that there are some loopholes. And of course, if you're not, trying to, like, if you're confused on where you're making mistake, you can just reach out to people and just show, like, get feedback like you
Don't be
gave
afraid to
feedback.
get people to read your work, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Because people are going to ask you questions like, well, it's obvious in there, but it's not always obvious. Sometimes in our head, we're like, we know what this character's doing, but it's not on the page.
So when it comes to writing, and especially when you're collaborating with a lot of departments like storyboard and animation, how much creative control do you have as a writer, and how much does a storyboard artist have?
I mean, you're setting the first roadmap. You're setting up the characters and stuff, so you have a lot of control, and then your control is over. Like you're basically trying to do the roadmap, so the characters are behaving like themselves. You want the dialogue to sound like each character's them and not just generic. Each character talks a little differently, and the action, and then the storyboard artist kind of takes that and really works out the beats of the action and how it'll look in the shots and stuff. So ultimately, the storyboard artist does have probably more control over what the final product looks like, but it's all based on your roadmap, and they can't do what they do without it. But it's going to change. Also, if something does change in animation, don't be so protective of your thing and insult it. It's because it's going through all these departments and things that people need to do, and even if you don't agree with it or you don't know what it was, there's a reason for every decision that people make. Oh, is too hard to animate, it's so expensive, so we're going to shift this sequence to something else.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's not it's not personal. It's just like there's probably a reason why changes were made, and sometimes changes are just made because the director has a different idea or things like that. But it's the kind of thing where you've got to stand by what you give initially, but don't take it to heart, because it's going to change as they discover and move along through all the stages what it needs.
And what would your writing process be? Because in series specifically, you have some time constraint, like maybe this episode is 10 minutes long or 20 minutes long. How do you, like, you have a huge story background, everything mapped out, but how do you restrict yourself in that time frame?
Well, when you get sample scripts, it's hard to find sample scripts, I get that, but when you do, look at how long. And different shows are have different formats. I try to get sample scripts of any show I'm going to try and write for, so I can see how they do it. But like an 11-minute script for some show, if there's lots of dialogue and it's constant, it's going to be denser and longer than others. But, so far, in general, the television format has been like a half an hour, which is like 22 minutes or so, once you add in the commercials or whatever. And scripts if you're hired on a show that's already happening, always ask for the sample scripts. Look at how it's formatted. Look at how the intro is set up. And look at how the act structure is set up. And copy it. Yeah. Follow that. Because it may not be, most of them are pretty similar at a length, like 11 minutes or 7 minutes, but each show has its kind of own way of working.
And you have collaborated with quite a lot of creators, especially the BIPOC, so which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So for someone with that background, how can they be a part of industry and have their own voice be spoken?
My writing partner, Shelley Hoffman, who has retired, but we worked for 20 years together. She would be any kind of time we were in a room with writers or other people from companies, she would approach, introduce herself to the BIPOC people, find out about them. If they seem creative at all, she'd like, have you thought about writing? Because, I'm lucky. I worked with her for 20 years. So for many years, I was half a woman, which I just did that over here. For many years, I was half a woman. And that helped me kind of We've always tried to get a balance of men and women and stuff. The main thing is our industry is made of a lot of people who look like me, white, male. It's just is what it is. But I want to get other voices because I want people who aren't looking at stories quite the same way I do, who bring in, because you have to bring in your own life to it. And if your life is like mine, I've already got my life on this show through me. I want people who have different experiences and come on. So it's been a really important thing, and the ability to bring in depends on the support of the production. If they're more open to it. I mean, sometimes people like, I just got one spot. They just had one spot for a BIPOC creator. And it feels weird that, people don't want to speak for everyone. A black writer doesn't want to speak for all black. And it's like, take whatever spot you can, show them, and just be you. Bring your own perspective. You're automatically different, and show them this is a valuable thing.
For people who are not in US and Canada and UK, their main frustration point is how to make money through animation, because we don't have enough information there itself to know. So I would love for you to cover something on that.
I would like an answer to that question as well. Right now, I'm not going to lie, it is a challenge to make money writing for kids in animation because the industry is contracting. The way kids find shows and things like that is quite different. It's more broken up. Some, YouTube is a huge thing. Some is online. Television is still more dominant in other parts of the world, but in North America, it's for sure kind of losing ground a little bit, and everything's splintering. So it is a real challenge to make money just doing kids in animation. So the first thing I would say is, and for writers, it's easier because the amount of time you need to create what you need to do is less than the artist who has to draw and kind of create the physical thing. So I would highly suggest have a job and do the writing, to support, and then help that support the writing as you figure it out. And when you do make money, that's a bonus. And as you build that, it will be hopefully become easier as you get that experience and show people you've done it. It may become a little easier to network and to get work.
That's an amazing idea, because a lot of people would want to write but don't want the stress of, okay, I need to write to make money, and then the creativity just leaks out. And we also have a rapid fire round. So I have a few questions here.
This is where I throw myself out the window to avoid the surprise questions.
The first question is, are you a multitasker or a deep worker?
I think I'm a multitasker, but I'm terrible at it. I'm better when I'm focusing and just on one thing. Right. So I have learned and am learning to give myself chunks of time where, okay, this 2 hours is focused on just this, and then that hour later I'll do that. So I'm not constantly jumping around. It's a challenge.
The next question is, are you a morning person or a night person?
I used to be a night person. When I was a storyboard artist, I'd be up all night working and stuff. And I'm more of a night person than my wife, who gets up early. But lately, I'm becoming more of a morning person.
Okay, and what would you be doing if you were not a writer?
I'd be drinking a lot, probably walking around the house in my pajamas. And oh wait, no, that is also me as a writer.
As a career path, I would say.
Yeah. Sorry, it's the same.
And before we jump on to the next segment of the drawing segment, do you have anything you want to share to the viewers?
One thing, the industry is changing, so a lot of the old rules, in terms of getting a job and stuff, have flown out the window. In Canada, a whole bunch of animation channels have closed, and where animation is expensive, so it's hard to raise money. So a lot of places don't have the money to make it. So your best bet is you can do writing for free. Write things, try and meet other artists and stuff, collaborate, try and put stuff out there and build an audience. You guys are doing this.
Yes.
And it's 5 people here, 10 people there, and grow that and test. If you can get some simple animation out and put it on, test it, put it out there, because that it's going to take a while to build an audience and to reach people and stuff, but that is in your control, and you can grow that way, and that can help be a calling card
Absolutely.
if and when work does come. But just create.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert, for this beautiful insight on, just reaching more people through internet. Like social media is something that everybody has access to. So yeah, just share your work as much as you can. So we have a tradition in our podcast that don't worry about that. Every artist just has to make a quick doodle of whatever the previous artist has left the prompt for. So are you ready for your prompt?
Yes, my doodles tend to take hours, so we'll see how this goes.
You'll get to decide the prompt for the next artist, so you can make it as challenging as possible.
So I can get my revenge on who's leaving me their prompt. Okay.
Yes. Okay, are you ready for the prompt?
No, I am absolutely not ready.
All right. Here you go.
Giraffe with wings and horns. Somebody's going to pay for this.
I can see your storyboarding experience in this.
What are giraffes' tails like? I think they're long. I know what I should have done. Yes, I'm erasing. I can change my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's entertainment, the dancing giraffe. I forgot the wings. Let's give him some lovely wings. Jojo, the dancing, flying, and what the heck, singing giraffe. He's a giraffe and a half.